concentrate on doing one thing well to get you in the door that maybe open up some other opportunities that you might not even realize or know about. All the stuff we're talking about, it's a lot of stuff, man, like different ways that you have to think, the relationships that you have to develop. This all kind of goes into the pot about, what it takes to be a really good musician. So I said, look, we should make a new degree that focuses on putting performance, production, and technology together. Something that's logical, that works for the students of today. It's everything that those universities don't really understand.
Today we're going to have an in-depth look at what it's like to learn musicianship, production, mixing, the music industry through the experience of going to school. So that's colleges, universities, trade school programs. And we're going to talk about the pros and cons. This perspective is going to be in a conversation between two music professors and two professional musicians and producers. And one of which, our guest who has designed multiple programs at the university level. Major shout out to the Technica House here in New York City, in Soho, for curating this beautiful space and inviting us in to record in this podcast studio. I'm sharing this conversation today with the amazing Kenyatta Beasley. He's a multifaceted musician, producer, composer, music licenser, and educator here in New York City. He grew up playing the trumpet in New Orleans, and as a performer, he has performed with the likes of Lauryn Hill, Chaka Khan, Usher, Quincy Jones, and Wyclef Jean, to name a few. He earned his master's degree from NYU in film composition, and he has taught jazz studies at Ohio State University. He designed the music technology, entrepreneurship, and performance program at Long Island University's Brooklyn campus. And he currently holds a position at Hofstra University in Long Island, where he is the director of music technology and production. So, Kenyatta,
Hey.
Thanks for being here, my friend. My first question for you is, so you and I are similar in a way that we kind of made the transition from coming up as musicians, solely as musicians, moved to a place where we wanted to pursue that. And then over the course of doing that, transitioned into more than just being a performing player. So you've brought in your skills, you've brought in your work and your career into many more aspects of the music industry. So for you, I'm just curious your story of like that transition of, did you have a moment where you had a light bulb moment of, I actually want to expand into production in other areas, or did it happen organically, or how did that come about?
It happened gradually, man. Grew up in New Orleans and, learned literally from my dad how to play trumpet on the streets of New Orleans. In the French Quarter,
wow,
along the Mississippi River, playing for tourists and making money. There's a lot of days where I didn't want to have to get up and on a Saturday morning and go work because all the other kids were having fun and doing this stuff. But, you start to get that work ethic as a kid. So you know how it feels just to have to get up and go do something because, you make some money, and then you're making money and people are throwing this father-son combination, all this money in the street, man. And we're in movies, man. I got to be young Louis Armstrong, for this Broadway musical. I mean, I did, got to travel to Europe when I was 9, just different things, just from doing all this stuff. So, man, the work ethic was there. So I moved on to this place called the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts. It's a place where Whidden and Bradford Marcellus and Terrence Blanchard, Nicholas Payton, Trombone Shorty, John Baptiste, all these people, and all these Grammy winners, all these NEA winners. Right? I'm taking the scenic route to get to this point. Terrence Blanchard came in because he's an alumnus from the school. Right? And he was there when Whidden Marcellus, and Ellis started the program, man. And he's talking about how he just got this movie, he's scoring this movie for Spike Lee called Malcolm X, and how he basically lied, man. I guess I can tell the story, man. He said, Spike asked him to do the score, and he didn't know squat about music. And I'm listening to this, and I'm like really interested. Like, man, it sounds like cool. You get to write music for film, and he's just started talking about his experience. He had to figure out what was going on, blah blah blah. So I remember hearing that conversation in the back of my head. Like, that's a very interesting, that's an interesting angle. This cat can play trumpet, but now he's moving over. It's like film scoring, and it just seemed like this happy accident to where the opportunity presented itself, And he understood what that opportunity was and took advantage of it to where he's had this long career just writing all this stuff. So, that initial thing was like very inspirational to see that somebody, you could do more than just this, And I was happy to be in a room that day as he was saying it, because I could have been off goofing off somewhere, but Terrence Blanchard is coming back and talking about all this great stuff that he's doing. So time moves on, and my teacher, this really great guy, man, legendary teacher, Clyde Kurt Jr., who took over that program after Ellis Marsalis left. So he, was responsible for a lot of like the talent that you see on stage, from Trombone Shorty and, John Baptiste. They were all Clyde students. Me and, Jason Marsalis, a bunch of other people, Nicholas Payton. We were talking, and me and Jason Marsalis, we used to go back and forth, well, blah, 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 and which one is better? Which one is better? Miles Davis or blah, 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 or Herbie Hancock, and whatever. And Mr. Kerr walked in the room, and this is like what really hit me. And he says, man, forget that. This and that, you need to be able to do it all. And I said, yeah, that's not necessarily better than this musically, blah, blah, blah. And he's making a point. And at that moment, that just stuck in my head for the rest of my life, to the point where I'm just accurately telling you how it happened in that room. And so, I wanted to come to New York City, and, this is where the top people in jazz were, and I'm getting a reputation, man. I'm up here doing stuff, but you can kind of see like how the scene was, do you really want to play music on this level for the rest of your life and have to do that, or depend on this as a musician? You start to see all these like life lessons happen as you kind of move up the totem pole, and you're listening and talking to these older musicians and their struggles about, extending a career musically, having to just do this. Man.
It doesn't always look as glorious.
It's not at all. So, man, there's a part of me that thinks, man, when I moved to New York City, I might have just been thinking too small from the narrow prism of an 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid who wants to be jazz star. Yeah. Right. Man, and I'm up here playing gigs too, man, with some jazz legends, Frank Foster. Yeah. Got the Roy Hargrove Big Band. Got to, just a lot, kind of on the scene. So somehow, my friend, Teodro Savory, called me, and I think he called me and said, "Hey, man, we're doing this thing with Lauryn Hill. Do you want to come and audition?" I'm like, sure. Mind you, I'm like one of those true jazz heads who believe that jazz is this high art and blah, 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 blah. But for some reason, I say, yeah, sure. So, and from that, I was part of the horn section on the, Miseducation of Lauryn Hill and the tour. So, man, from now, I'm starting to see how the music's being produced, in the studio. Okay, drum machine this, and we're starting to kind of, how people would actually put together the production, the whole thing, because you're seeing it, somehow you've landed in this situation to where you're watching like part of and being involved in part of music history in a sense. And so there's a part of you start to see that side of the business as well, because I'm like, man, you know what? I'm over here. I want to get to if I'm making this money, I'm imagining what the person on the other side of the glass is actually getting. I'm just the help, I want to get over there and like figure out this production thing. Yeah. So, man, as the tour starts, man, you start meeting these people, these really great musicians, man. And I'll never forget this. The music director at the time was named Jamie Hawkins, part of this legendary gospel Hawkins family. Talented guy, just took the gig over, and with Lauryn as the musical director. I think he was working for Boyz II Men before this, man. Like big R&B stuff, and really talented guy, man. And we're sitting on the back of the tour bus, and he's talking. He pulls out this little thing. It's like this QI-70. I'm not sure. Have you ever? It's like Yamaha used to make this thing. Does this little thing, and you can kind of like see. And I'm like, oh shit! All right, cool, man. All right, this is kind of hip. All right, I'm checking this out. And I was like, before that, I had another friend who was writing music for New York Undercover. This great piano player, Carlos McKinney, and he has this piano upstairs. He has a little studio. So I'm kind of seeing, oh shit, I need to kind of start coming over, to that spot and kind of making this money. And I could still play trumpet. You know, and maybe I can use the, you know, like the way I'm thinking about it, just the trumpet, my skill as a trumpet player got me into a position that connected me to that.
Yeah. That's key though, is that you had the open-mindedness to try something else and actually see it as an opportunity instead of saying, "Oh, I don't do that. I play trumpet."
Well, you know what? So the initial question is, because we took the tour, you know, the scenic route to get to this point was this goes back what Mr. Kerr said. He said, "Look, you got to do everything. This is all music.
Yep.
It's all music. You know, you playing an instrument, you can't have a narrow focus of doing this when there's a wider scope of things that you can possibly be doing." And it kind of makes sense. I mean, you know, to be a successful musician, you got to know discipline on an instrument, good practice habits. You got to learn theory. Man, you got to sight read. You're going to take oral skills. You're going to take the music history of this, and you're going to learn improv this and study and figure out these complex solos and try to go and play gigs to perfect it and all this stuff. Why would you just use all of that information just to do that one narrow thing when you could just apply it to all these other things within the industry that, you know, in theory, it kind of helps your playing out, because you can kind of look at what you're doing from a different aspect rather than just do this one thing. So, man, once I started getting around this production stuff, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. This is where the money's being made. Yeah. You know.
Plus, I feel like the production requires almost more of a complete musicianship than just one instrument. Because I felt this as a drummer, where I was playing in a lot of bands for many years, and I felt musically kind of frustrated that I couldn't really get to the thing I really felt I had in me musically. Right. And when I started producing, I was like, oh, like this is it. This is what I was like looking for, because I can now I'm like the conductor of the whole piece.
Well, okay, great, but you know it's strange. You realize that probably in your 20s, late 20s, 30s. All right, the part of your life where you should be kind of like, you know, okay, I really want to, you know, because I think when a lot of kids get into this, you're 15, 16, 17, 18, and you think your whole life is just going to be that one little thing that you really aspire to be. Yeah. And it's a very narrow focus. You haven't even lived the next part of your life yet. Yeah. You know, you have no idea what's going to change. And sometimes you can kind of see people kind of get stuck doing that, you know, especially in the music industry, because they become really, really good at it.
Yep.
You know,
specialization, right?
Oh, but now, you know, it's like, I think I'm a great trumpet player, you know, I mean, you know, but I know that I could have been, you know, I'm still practicing, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm still aspiring to be a certain thing, but I have all these other things that I'm saying, well, okay, well, shit, I know I can play. Yeah. I'm a bad motherfucker play. So let me just move some of this stuff over so I can kind of figure out how I'm going to make money being a musician and doing music for a living, because that's all I've ever known my entire life. From me playing the streets of New Orleans to now. And I tried other jobs. Summer job.
not the thing.
No. Why would I do that shit, man? Yeah. You know, I mean, because, you know, look, growing up in New Orleans, man, you're around people who are kind of making money playing music. Yeah. And so you have a working example about people who have carved out, you know, careers doing this and just being, you know, successful performers, because, you know, the city's kind of based around that in a sense.
Yeah, in New Orleans, when I visited there, it felt unique in that way that it seemed like people were playing, A, you could play gigs every night, B, you can play good paying gigs every night, and C, you could play 3 gigs a night, you know? It just seems like there's a lot more work and a lot more respect for the craft there.
Yeah. I mean, man, look, when I moved to New York City, that's what New York City was, the mid-90s. Yeah. Oh, man, it was like action. You can just trip over a gig, man.
Really?
Go, man. If there's music, like literally music just everywhere. I mean, I think I'm happy I got to New York City at that time, because you're able to kind of witness great musicianship. Man, it's nothing like watching somebody who can just rip and play, man. Yep. When you're around the best, that you're working with some of the best people in the world, you know. Yeah. Most time you pull your horn out the case. You know, whatever.
It's special.
Yeah, but I mean, but that's why I came to New York, because in New Orleans, you're just gonna do that one thing. New York is like options. People around the world, man, who just view things differently, and you dig that, man. And you know, you start to realize why why am I going to settle just doing this one thing musically when I can do other, other things? And if Mr. Kerr didn't say, hey man, you guys need to kind of just do it all.
Yeah.
That resonated.
So you've obviously joined a few faculties and beyond just the faculty, but you've helped design a few university programs for music. So did you have to be that voice in those situations of like, hey guys, like you're teaching a narrow thing and like I need to inform you guys to like broaden the scope of what people are being taught? Was that like your role in those situations, or were they already kind of on that trajectory?
My first gig at Ohio State, I was teaching jazz studies, man. And I got that gig right after the last tour I did with Jay-Z and Mary J. Blige. All right. So at that point, I'm like, man, I never want to go on tour again.
Really?
Oh, dude.
You're over it.
Oh, man, because look, when I started doing the Lauren thing at 21, that was the biggest freaking thing going, man.
Yep.
And you're working all these other like pop gigs, man. When you was Shakira and.
So you did it. You did it at the top level. It's like, where do you go from there, right?
Where do we go from there in the consistency of everything involved in this, man? Because even doing that, I wrote music for jingles. I mean, I worked for jingle houses as a writer. So I mean, I had other ways of making money, and you can figure that out. But those big tours take so much out of you because you're never working for you. Your time is gone.
Yeah, you're a sideman.
Yeah, you're a sideman. And people say, "Oh man," and it's weird, And this comes back to this university thing. Whenever I see musicians who advertise themselves as I play with this person, I'm like, man, you know what? At some point in your life, you're going to have to do you because in theory, man, you're just like a 1099 to some of these people and you can be fired. I mean, we're in a dispute. You know what? Yeah. You need your versatility. Dude, easily be replaced. So I was coming out from like having worked in, A&R with hip hop labels as well. When you start to like, of course, done a lot of different things just to make some money and see what's happening. I'm walking into college with that kind of experience, knowing how it would feel, what do you have to do to play to get on the gig? The decorum to even hold a gig. Like, what should your strategy do to how can you even get there? Who do you need to meet? I mean, all these other, there's professional level questions that we have to ask ourselves as musicians if we're trying to actually, a lot of connecting the dots. Yeah. And that's what universities don't really know how to do because a lot of people at certain universities have just been a part of academia and they've only done academia.
Yeah, the bubble.
Oh man. And so you haven't had to go out here and figure this out and, trying to create the gig. Yeah. Scheme up how you're going to get to, okay, so who do I need to meet to get over here? Okay, and do I actually have the skills to pull this off? Okay, is my stuff on this level? Right. Okay, how do I get in the room to do this? And, all the stuff that you got to figure out as a musician, how are we going to make money doing this? Yeah. I mean, so if you're working at a university, you know nothing about this. Right. You know nothing about the skills that you actually need to kind of make it for what's actually happening right now in this current environment where everything is shifted to this streaming thing and gig opportunities change and blah, blah, blah. So if you don't know all that stuff that's happening, you're kind of oblivious.
Do you think it's possible to teach that in a formal setting, like a school setting? Because obviously, like that's something that you kind of just figured out, thinking on your feet, observing people, being in situations that you see opportunities happen, and you're like, it dawns on you that there's,
you can have that in a university program. I think that the mind, it doesn't have to necessarily be involved in a class in hustling.
Right. That's an outside of class.
A class in connecting the dots. Because when you think about it, man, a lot of what we do is connecting dots. It's never really a straight line.
No, sir.
You can say that you have a goal that you want to get this to a goal, but it's always these kind of, and you miss this person at the wrong time. Yeah. They quit and then, this person's gone now, because that happens a lot of shifting and it's all this like this herky-jerky motion that happens. you, that's just part of being smart and being out here and trying to figure things out. And I think that could be a part of the commonsensical part of putting it in a college thing. I think you just need cats who are able to articulate the real thing. I mean, so for me, it's like when I hire people to be on faculties, yourself included.
Hey, thanks for the job, man.
No, I'm just saying, because look, I mean, even for you, you're kind of what this, this part of the conversation, you can kind of give a real life perspective about what it really is out there and how I have to do this to kind of get to this point, and I'm a producer, and this is how I'm doing this. And to your credit, you've turned this into a Grammy Award.
Hey.
And that's a fucking shift.
Yeah.
You figured something out and got to that point.
Yeah.
That's a remark. You connected enough dots, and there's some luck involved.
Yep. Definitely.
And usually I think your luck is created by who you are as a person, the quality of it, And so when you see, I was like, you know what, Josh deserved that.
Hey, thanks.
I'm clapping for you, man.
Yeah.
I'm literally clapping. But what you did represents you, like, and when I met you, I'm like, okay, you can figure this out, to how to communicate this to students. I think that to watch somebody like you mix, you say some very, very smart things that made me think. And the people who I bring in, I want to have that different perspective, to where I'm like, oh, where I'm just sitting down and I'll just sit in somebody's class and start learning shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because that's what we literally always have to be doing. And so that whole thing, I mean, that transferred to like, okay, can we see what's happening out in the industry as well?
Mm-hmm.
And that commonsensical thing can be, I think, brought to people who have ties in figuring something out.
Mm-hmm.
And that just becomes part of the discourse in your program. I think you're sharing that with the students, how to maybe, think different ways about approaching different things.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's probably where people get stuck, that there's only one way of just approaching it, and they don't have like a couple of different options, to where maybe if you don't like option 2, you can maybe take parts of 2 and connect it to 4, and you got something a little different. I mean, so it's all that, experimentation that you actually have to do as a person, and like professionally, what skills do you have to freaking pay the bills? Yeah. Because you might stumble onto something because you had a plan.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned that music is not linear, and if I could like sum it up with one thing that I try to convey to students, it's because I feel like one thing I struggle with a lot teaching is that I get a lot of students coming to me, especially by the end of the school year, and people want like advice of like how do I get work, and B, like where, like I'm not going to apply for a job because it doesn't really work that way in the music industry in most cases. So what do you do? What's the roadmap? And I struggle a lot of times to answer that question because the only roadmap I know is the one that like I sort of stumbled into and that just happened to work for me. But
you know what? I don't think it's that complex.
No?
No.
Just be good and get out there?
Yeah, okay. I think it's simpler than that. I think it's like, why don't you go study the people who you think are successful and see what the fuck they did? Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you can. I mean, I'm sure we can always just kind of track backwards and like.
It's on Google.
Oh, well, man, did this person make the decision to move to LA at this point? Yeah. Did this person meet this person and then they're working with X person as music producer and meets in another room music producer? I mean, because a lot of this stuff just happens by chance.
It's happenstance, yeah.
It's happenstance. So I think that what you have to do is this. I think you have to be really good at doing something. Yeah. Tell you why. Doing something really well in regards to being a great engineer, maybe you can record and mix things really fucking well. You got that skill set. That's one. But you also play bass and you and you do this other stuff and you killing on that. And you go do that stuff, right? Maybe you're a really great guitarist and you can fit well on session work. I mean, you have to do something that people understand when they see you. You have an appreciable talent that they can exploit for their purposes because of your skill set. Right. I can call you. You sound really good because So you just got to get the phone ringing.
That's
a lot of people just don't have, I think from what you're saying is that, what the fuck do you do really well? Why don't we just concentrate on doing one thing well to get you in the door that maybe open up some other opportunities that you might not even realize or know about.
That's right. That's wise. Yeah.
I'm just saying, I mean, so a lot of people, I just don't think do one thing well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I was actually referring to like a lot of people ask me that actually do that. Like, I feel like most people ask me that we're like great at production or great at something for sure. But even then it can still be difficult to like, especially if you're new to like the city, if you're new to New York, or if you just moved to LA, it's like, where do I start? Where do I go? What do I do?
I mean, all right, let's see if we can conjure up a hustle right now.
Let's hear it.
Because okay, I'm hearing it. All right, so I'm a producer. Okay. My stuff sounds, okay, pretty good. You're definitely going to have to get some social media stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
You're definitely going to have to figure out some kind of angle. And just to make a small name to where I see 50,000 to 100,000 people actually digging you. What's some work?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably
on that note, I got to drop a gem I heard online the other day. I saw a video of a guy who said people used to hire the most talented folks to do a gig, and now they hire the most visible. But but if you're if you're the most talented and you're very visible, then like that's the formula. Which I thought was very well.
Well, but think about it. I mean,
but it's not so binary like that. Because like if you're good, you're gonna get opportunities.
Well,
in some way.
Well, so I would start finding good people to work with that I can showcase on whatever I do, and start to build relationships gradually. If I'm very good at production, people are gonna find me.
Yep.
All right. Now, it's almost like, I would maybe do case studies. Maybe I'm such a great producer, I can get this person to sound this way. And because, I mean, when you think about it, because I think about production in a different aspect. I think people make beats, but I think the classic thing about production is that can you work with people and put them in an atmosphere to where they sound good and you can get an artist to kind of like grow a little bit and expand what they do due to the back and forth relationship of the collaboration. Right. I mean, you see, but so look, to go back to the original question, now we're kind of getting into all the inside baseball about what it really takes to be a good producer and like really turn out a good product. You know what I'm saying? So maybe I'm looking at it that way. Maybe I go find some people and people. You'd be surprised. People say, "Hey, I'll do something on that," because everybody has a studio at their house. I mean, people got their little Focusrite preamps, man, and they're a little mic, and they can do things. So I'm like, whatever. So I would start at this, and that probably has to be done via social media and find some kind of slick way to do that. I mean, I'm at the age where I kind of do what I do, and I got time for all that stuff, man. I got 2 kids. I got to go here. I got to like teach this class. I got this project due. I got a gig tomorrow. That I practice. I mean, I'm just saying, from the aspiring producer, I would just seek other talent online and see how I can work with them and start collaborating.
Yeah. So, question: what would you say the students you see a lot of students every semester, every year. What do you think? What's like the most fundamental thing that you see the most people like just kind of not grasping as far as like when they arrive, like as far as their image of what things are going to be like, or even when they're graduating, like what's the one thing you're always kind of driving home that you feel like, what's the one takeaway you want people to really absorb?
Oh man, you got to own your ideas. Otherwise, what are we doing?
Yeah. Own your creations, right?
You gotta own your stuff, man. I mean, and see, that's the thing, man. It's like you're talking about just being a performer, right?
And you're talking about owning the rights to it. You're not just talking about, or are you talking about like owning the confidence of it, or is it both?
No, both. But I'm talking about owning your ideas, your copyright.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think it's one thing to be a great performer, and that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And you just play. You get your check. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Next gig. Okay, now you got to replicate this and try to figure out how you're going to do this for 30, 40 years. What ownership of what? You're just playing an instrument. All right? So you have to be able to write things to, you need to have some intellectual property that you're always able to make some money back from.
Mm-hmm.
Because, man, I think one of the things that musicians have to figure out is how can I use this to create residual income?
Yeah.
And look, all the stuff we're talking about, it's a lot of stuff, man, like different ways that you have to think, the relationships that you have to develop. And this all kind of goes into the pot about, what it takes to be a really good musician.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's to kind of go back for a second, it's everything that those universities don't really understand.
Mm. Yeah.
That's a lot, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot. When you got to create the hustle yourself, man. Woo!
Yeah, it's not easy, man.
Man, so there's so many little different things that you just have to know along the way. Cultivating relationships, man. Being somebody who's dependable and reliable.
Mm-hmm. And then, so when it comes to copyrights and owning copyrights
Mm-hmm.
and monetizing copyrights, where can people look aside from like, I'm just going to try to get a couple million streams on Spotify and like get checks from that? Like, where else is there?
Film and TV. Man, if I was somebody, I would be trying to find filmmakers and see if I can just, maybe I have a couple of songs that work well for your film. I've been following your career, so maybe I've been researching this director, or maybe I find a music supervisor who I know might be attached to certain things, and start to open that up as an avenue of what you can have your stuff out there. I mean, I had to figure something out. I had a friend, I met at NYU. I hit him up, saw him on LinkedIn, and we started talking. Man, I did some of his student films, but this is me connecting the dots about how I can get my stuff in. This
Mm-hmm.
is how my thought process.
Mm-hmm.
Put up a little post on LinkedIn. Oh shucks, he likes it. I put, oh my, it's Toshi. I hit him up on a message. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, I work as I direct internal films for Chase, J.P. Morgan.
Nice.
All that corporate stuff. I'm like, oh shucks, you know what? I got a library of music here, and I can write music. Fine, we're gonna put you on the vendor list, and we make a little agreement, and you can use your library to actually use in our commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You got that happening. A little fee.
Mm-hmm.
You get coming in every year. Special projects you write music for,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just me having relationships that I've already developed. That's what I'm saying. Go out and meet filmmakers.
Yeah.
Start going to like different, sync opportunities and start figuring some of that stuff out. I mean, yeah. I mean,
But you mentioned something kind of in passing that I think is important. That it sounds like you kind of like you remember that he was somebody you respected, and then it turns out he's doing something very cool now, and then you took the initiative to reach out and and start the conversation. Where I think a lot of folks kind of wait for things to come into the inbox.
What do you have to lose, man?
Yeah.
Look. See, maybe this is where we're different as well. Now maybe it's a generational thing. I was always taught. I think I've had like very good teachers. And like, man, you got to fucking make your phone ring. Don't sit there and complain about your phone not ringing and the people not calling you. You got to be out here kind of putting yourself out there, developing a reputation, figuring out, man, maybe you got to, it's sad to say, a couple of free gigs here and there to kind of get to build up your portfolio. You got something to show, and that's where we're coming from, man. So I'm always like, I always reach out to people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to figure something out. Like, man, how can I connect to this person? I'd like to get on this project. How can, and I'm scheming it out.
Yeah.
And then along the way, you meet other people who help you. And that's the kind of thing that you have to do. I mean, but that's just how I look at it. I got to do things and take action and reach out to them, because I don't think still energy is rewarded.
Yeah.
If I just sit there and do nothing, I can't expect anything to happen. At least I go fail. I mean, at least the universe knows. Okay, this cat's trying. Maybe he'll stumble upon this. Let's see where he is, or he or she is. You know, so you always got to keep fishing and kind of developing relationships. I mean, shit, man. That's my skill allowed me to meet you.
Right, it's true. I really want to hear about you came into Long Island University, and I know you took on the role of designing their audio program.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what it was when you arrived, when you got hired, and then like what was your task, and like how did you kind of create the vision of like making it something else and making it more modern?
I took the gig at Ohio State, and I wanted to leave.
And you were flying there every week, is that right?
Just got married.
From New York City.
Just got married. My wife moved up from Miami. That summer, got a call. Hey, we got this position that somebody else turned down. And I applied for it. It's just that, I think Whit Marsalis just didn't write his recommendation letter in time. I said, hey, man, Whit, can you, director of, professor of jazz studies at Ohio. But the thing is, this program had this thing called Music, Media, and Enterprise. That was that they were trying to launch out there.
Ohio.
Right. So this kind of gets me to the LIU situation, how I even got there. Because you would have to know this to see how we got to the point in LIU. So, I mean, I think when you're in education, I think if you get to like a tenure track position, that's no point of rest. I mean, I think if you have tenure at a university, I think that you always still have to be figuring new things out. Mm-hmm. Because even with tenure, you can't get stale. And plus, maybe some other school would want to kind of have your expertise and give you a little more. I mean, you want to have a real life conversation.
Yeah.
So you got to keep you got to keep doing things and whatever. So they had that. They wanted to do something else, and they wanted the person to be involved in the industry. And I just got off a tour with Mary J. Blige and Jay-Z, and I didn't want to do it anymore. And I was just trying to figure out what my next move was going to be. And lo and behold, I had a friend. This is where, I do something really well, play a trumpet. Right? Friend, Derek Gardner, who left, but he recommended me to this guy, Ted McDaniel, who's a director of jazz studies at Ohio State. Because he said, hey, yeah, he does that, and he does film scoring, because Derek, knew what I did. I think you should call him. I think he would fit in well. And he used to be one of my students, and he plays. We used to work with Frank Foster together, and blah, blah. Guy called me. Somehow, everything fell out, and I got the gig. In July. School started in September. Wife just moved up here.
Wow.
Fuck. She didn't move up here to move to Columbus, Ohio.
Right.
So had to kind of figure this first part out. Like, okay, hey, look, I got some commitments, and I got to fly back and forth. So I go out and teach my class and students and blah, blah, blah. Friday night back home, Monday night back out. Did that for like maybe 2 years.
Wow.
So so I'm teaching jazz trumpet and improvisation, all kind of stuff, arranging. But, man, to be honest, I'm happy I had the gig because I got to learn a lot about arranging and all that stuff. Like cool. A lot of this stuff, dude, I was learning on the spot. Because I'll be honest. I think the dude hired me because he knew I was smart. But I had to teach jazz arranging and all that stuff and composition, and I've never done jazz arranging. So I happen to know great arrangers and call them.
So you had to shed.
Oh man, look, I'm staying like 2 steps ahead of the students because you can't. But I know I can figure it out. I'm just how fast can I figure this out? Because a lot of times the only thing that's going to make you figure something out is a fucking deadline and some fucking money's attached to it. All right, now I'm here. Am I going to fuck it up and blow this opportunity? Oh, shit. Okay, so somehow I got to this opportunity. And so, okay. I'm calling Frank Foster, one of the greatest jazz. I mean, somehow my talent, once again, that one central skill I have allowed me to be this guy who wins Grammy Awards with the Count Basie Orchestra and had me in his band and, hey, man, I need your notes. Can you show me, one of the masters of, okay. Mm-hmm. Hey, man, look, need your help. All right, so I figure it out on the spot. They gave me a leave so I can do a record. And while I was on leave, I was back in New York City. The LIU posting came up and says something for media arts. It wasn't even music production. Right? It was like, more for like sound for film. But I knew, I said, hey, you know what? I do this as well. Because, I mean, in my journey, I did like sound for film for directors. One of the ways I would try to get in with directors was that I'd say, hey, I'll do the sound for your picture as well. Because that, you know what I'm saying? And I'll do the score. Cool. So it's kind of like a 2-in-1 package that gets you some practice in actually how to reconstruct this, sound for a picture. So that was part of the job description. Got the gig. So when you get there, you start to realize that being at a school, you need to do something and maybe create an opportunity that's not currently in front of you. I said, oh, okay, man. Okay, this little music production part you got that I'm doing here. Is this studio's not doing this? Okay, is this not happening? Okay, man, we need just to write a fucking major. And when we put all this stuff together and save the struggling music department. So it's all together. It's, because a lot of the music students were leaving music to come do music production that's in a whole different thing. It's like, and the two sides, the two sides aren't talking. And it's like, why don't you just combine the two and make a fucking degree? What are you doing? It's just like, so you have to do that and see a vision for it and say, hey, maybe we should do this. So you also need people who believe in that vision and push it with you. So the guy, Larry Banks, who was director of media arts, say, hey, look, our poor music department needs help. We have all these students who want to learn how to produce beats. And maybe so I said, look, we should make a new degree that focuses on putting performance, production, and technology together. Something that's logical, that works for the students of today. Because I'm saying you're going to have to learn all those things anyway.
That's right. And
how to actually make money from it and have an honest discussion about this while you're in school. So maybe that we'll be taking ear training 3 out and putting, music production and music publishing and copyright, or class and how a record label functions and what's the purpose of all, streaming models, distribution models. Because you got to think, if you're making music, and it's not like it's the old days where, if you wanted to do a record, you would have to book time in a recording studio and get access to synths and a studio that had Pro Tools and blah, blah, blah. Now, since the stuff is, everybody can make a record in your bedroom effectively, and sometimes it sounds like you've made the record in your bedroom. Everybody has access, so that people, the market is flooded full of people. So how do you make money doing this right now? You got to have a program to get people ready to be able to pivot, into different skill sets, because you might be able to fall upon a hustle. So it's not about what your dream of is to be a singer at 18. Maybe you come out and are heavily involved in music copyright and want to get in publishing, and kind of like that, and kind of acquiring songwriter extra for publishing deal. Maybe maybe that's the kind of thing that keeps you going, and you can still sing if you choose to. Well, who says that you have to, not do the other thing? You got the stuff that the creative stuff that makes you happy here, and then you got the other stuff to where you got that hustle going over here. It's like almost like this kind of life balance that you kind of need anyway. So who says that you have to do this one thing? We got to put you in a position to where you can effectively see everything that's actually happening, and and how you gonna make doing. Look, at the end of the day, we got to figure out building a skill set that allows you to figure out how you could start making money doing this. And the end path might not be what you think, because you're going to be growing older and mature, and things change, dreams change. So you got to be kind of flexible and versatile to kind of fit when things change. You know what I'm saying? So, but nobody approaches it that way. But I'm just looking at it as real life from my experience. Who's talking from it in that kind of aspect? I mean, you just can't say, okay, music producer and be music producer. No, man, you got to fucking, hey, look, there's a lot of personable skills that you're going to need. And this is the thing I think is good about college. You can meet other people who will be inspired by you, and you're inspired by them, and you build a community.
Yeah, I think that's the most valuable part of college.
That's the part about going to college I would recommend.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the part that people don't fucking understand.
Yeah.
You're there for the relationships.
Right. That's why I was going to ask you, you know.
You're there for the relationships.
Right.
And to be put in the room
Yeah.
with people who have similar goals at that time,
Yeah.
who are thinking about things or have a talent that's different than yours, and you have to look at it as being
the incubator.
It's an incubator.
And I know both you and me are still working with people we went to college with, and still getting opportunities and seeing those people out in the wild doing great things, and still cross paths for years to come. You know?
I went to the new school when I got to New York City. So, man, the baddest cats in New School. I got there, then I see Robert Glasper there. Then it's Belial.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's Marcus Strickland, E.J. Strickland. Then I see, you know, all these really great musicians who I'm around, man. And those people today are like brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I see Robert, hey, man, like you come and be on this recording. I'm doing this, man. I got a gig over here, man. Pop up, bring your horn, blah, blah, blah. Hey, man, let's do it. I had those relationships because when I got here, it was around the baddest motherfuckers because, once again, that's that one skill I have.
Mm-hmm.
It allowed me to kind of be respected by those guys.
Yeah.
You know, Keon Harrells,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and, you know, and all those different guys, man. So that community I've benefited from those relationships just by being there with all those guys.
Yeah.
If I wasn't, I'm kind of on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
I was in the right place at, for me, the right time, man, where I remember, you know what? I brought Robert Glasper to, this is how relationships work out. Played on my first record. Look, man, gave him first gigs when he got to New York. Brought him to a rehearsal that we were doing this concert around the corner from the new school. I say, Glasper, come here. You know, check out these cats over here making us money, because he was always already a bad dude up front. Mm-hmm. You know, he can play. You know, you can throw rocks on the ground. The motherfucker can play it. Mm-hmm. It's just really. But I brought him to a rehearsal that we were doing with Lauryn Hill, because I was doing the Lauryn Hill. Somehow the new school had allowed me to go on tour at the same time, and were giving me life credit.
Nice.
You know, that's the way they used to do it. They would kind of set it up to where, oh, you're out here doing things, man. A lot of teachers say, man, you out there making money? Oh, man, don't worry about it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I was that.
That's the whole goal anyways, right?
That's how they were looking at it. And that's the environment. Like, hey, man, you making that money? Oh, man, I saw you on Saturday Night Live, man.
Yeah.
All right, man, y'all heading to Tokyo? I mean, we would go for like 2 month stretches and like just in the middle of the school year. I was cool with it.
Wow.
Man, so you're around it, and I bring Glasper to a rehearsal, and he's like, oh, shit. And I could see like the little thing go off in his eyes, man. I think it was like maybe 18, 19. And I think he always remembers that, because I think I kind of changed his outlook on things, because now he's here, I mean, and he's this. And, you know, it's like you have that brotherhood with these people. You pay for that.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about college. You have those stories. I mean, I got plenty of the stories of many great music, you know, the Casey Benjamins, you know, and all those guys. You need to be in the room.
Yeah.
And because those are the relationships that are going to benefit you for the rest of your fucking life.
Right. I feel like my most poignant memories of college were just like the raw experience of seeing musicians who were like my age, but just the level was so high. And you're just like, I didn't know people played this way at my age or
from
younger.
all around the world. You know? Oh man, I think so. Yeah, we're like making a case for college.
Yeah. I mean, it needs to be made. I think it's because I think some people do ask that question is like, why can't I just like rock on YouTube and, you know, and pursue the internet?
Man, you don't get it. I just don't think people get it. It's I don't care what happens in this digital age. You will always need other people who talk about you in a positive sense to other people when you're not in the room with them.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, people who are your advocate, who might be talking you into a situation. Hey man, look, heard this, blah, blah, thought about you.
Yep.
That's the relationship that you need, man.
Yeah.
Because you all hung out together, man. You were in the little sessions or whatever, or telling jokes in the hallway and not going to class and all that stuff, man. And just like because that's what it was. I mean, it was all these really bad cats like just sitting in the hallway telling jokes.
Yeah. I love it.
And you'd be surprised. It was nothing really assumed about music. I mean, I'm talking about, man, like guys who are like the musical directors with Maxwell now, Shedrick Mitchell, and Marcus Baylor and Casey Benjamin, and like you start to see Keon and the Rodriguez brothers and all these great freaking musicians, man. And you just singing, and you're building that kind of camaraderie. A lot of people who like, go to Japan, man. Hey, I remember you. Hey, come over and do a tour of Japan with us, man. That's how, and I still live by those relationships. The other ones are the ones from NYU, because I went back to school and got a master's degree in film scoring because I just wanted to get back in film scoring, man. So, man, you start meeting these directors. Because I had a plan. I was like, you know what, man? I need to go check out something that's different than jazz performance, because I don't want to apply to university jobs. And it just says jazz performance as a master's degree as well.
Smart.
What's the use of that? I said, you know what? NYU had this little thing, this little scholarship that I applied for. It's a fellowship, man. And it was like something like $25,000 a year living stipend plus free tuition.
Nice.
I didn't get it. I said, "Fuck it." You know what? And this is how much it meant to me at that moment to do that. I said, I don't want to be on the road anymore doing this stuff, man. Like, having to do something. Let me get this master's, film scoring, and I went to NYU. I said, "Fuck, I'll just take out the loans." You know what? It was that time, man. I didn't want not getting something to stop me at that time, so I just did everything. And man, I met so many people along the way, where you just start, and you have these projects that are under your belt because you have to work with filmmakers. Because I know they had a really great film school. That's why I went there. I said, look, if I'm going to do film scoring, I'm going to make sure for me I can develop a reel. I'll do some of these things for free, kind of get my vibe going, see what's happening, and make some relationships. A lot of those people have gone on and they say, hey, man, again, there's a party happening here. I'm working on this project. I learned this guy thought about you, blah, blah, blah. So those people go on to do things. Then you meet some of the people that they know, and you start to kind of like expand into other things, and then meet like another subset of people from that set of people who you develop relationships with. So that's the sense of community that I use from NYU, was just doing that, and then you're kind of around a different train of thought, that I was at NYU. Another thing that kind of influenced me, I remember they were just starting the Clive Davis Institute.
Right.
When I was leaving. They were just getting it off the ground. I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Clive Davis is about to establish his own recording institute.
Yeah.
At NYU.
Yeah.
That's a different way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that might have been the first. Berkeley always did that, but for somebody to come in and say, hey, that marked, I thought, should have been representing a change in the way that people were going to have to approach music education in a broader sense. They were trying to bring the industry to campus, and but to think about it, you got to really think about it. You would have to say, I want to go to NYU and maybe take the risk of taking on his debt. Is it worth the risk or the gamble? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because you're going to pay a lot of money, but at the end of the day, you're going to be close to the money.
Right.
And people who know people with money and opportunities. And that's what you're paying for.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yep. You're paying for that. And they know that. And they know that.
Yeah.
So hey man, you want to come on? You want to hang out and be down with us?
Yeah.
And say that you went here and maybe meet a couple of us and blah blah blah. Here's the fee for that.
Private club.
Here's the. But I mean, look, I think that's why you have this thing in higher education anyway, man, where there's a fight to see who can and cannot be, as far as admitted. When they start to think about like racial, like, oh, we these people are, you can't have you can kind of start to see the importance of it that way.
Yeah.
Because we want to try to regulate who gets in here.
Right.
Right. And that's a whole different conversation that, kind of affects what we actually do. But dude, it's the access to just being around a Clive Davis, and maybe you could figure something out.
Yeah.
Or maybe you meet somebody who can help you figure something out, and you have a little small team because when you guys were all here, you're struggling together.
Yeah.
Or better yet, maybe there's some really rich kid who just kind of falls in. You know what I'm saying? Like, my parents have taken care of tuition and blah blah blah. And
that's a thing, yeah.
Yeah, hey, look,
yeah.
You're gonna have to meet a couple of those people as well.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I also think I try to tell my students at Berkeley this often, that that frame of time where you have time, like you're busy with class, you have assignments, but you have like large portions of your week that you can just like write music. I know kids who like in the past in a semester wrote like 20, 30 tracks of like original music, which is for me now, like I can't do that, because I have too many other things happening in my life that need attention. But I did do that at that age, and that was, a really formative thing, and it teaches you so much to have like that sort of output. So that's, I think, another thing you're buying with that price tag is like the full focus.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy, man. Like, people make the decision about, oh, well, college is not worth this. I can learn this from YouTube, like you said. And man, it's the other things that you need in your life that you actually need to be immersed in.
Yeah, not just the information.
No, I mean, it's just like okay, I got to get my shit together here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, all right. Man, my stuff does not sound the same way my guy over here.
Yeah.
Or her stuff is this sounds, and then you kind of start looking over like,
yeah, what am I not doing over here?
Yeah. So, what kind of EQ you throwing up there? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I never thought about it like that. And you're paying for that.
Yeah.
You're paying for that moment. And when you think about it, if you have a successful career, what kind of price tag could you put on that?
Yeah. And what's really cool about teaching that I was kind of surprised by, not that I didn't know this, but I was surprised by how much I would learn, and how much I would pick off the students of like, oh, that's interesting, or by things that they do and the music they make and the methods they create, and also by like what you were saying before of like staying a step ahead of like filling your own knowledge gaps to be able to teach the stuff in a clear way.
Man, I am learning right now.
Yeah,
I got to sit here and figure out how to use a SSL Origin 32 and incorporate it into a studio and all these different things. But I think what you said is critical. I mean, for us, and I think for the people who teach it, there is so much that I have to learn while I teach, because I have to know it so well that I have to be able to articulate it to students in the most commonsensical way possible. Or be able to take it to level 10 to where we can discuss it, because at the end of the day, so man, teaching, man, it brings out the best of you, because you got to really, I don't see how you can do this and not keep your chops up.
Yeah, big time.
Because, man, students, you know what, man, I was in school, I'll call you out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
People do that, man. I mean, like,
challenge the teacher. Yeah.
Oh, come on, man. Like, you don't really know what you're talking about, man. Yeah. And I every now and then you get a class like that. Like, who? How did this guy get in here?
Yeah.
And that's the last thing. I don't. So there's a level of preparedness that I think that when you do this, that kind of, for us, I think it requires organization.
Big time.
And because I gotta be able to effectively present how a compressor works, what are the simplest ways, the simplest little building blocks? I have to get the mind to talk about, how to constrict dynamic range and the purpose of this, and what is the context in music, and how does the brain react to it? That's a lot of thought that you have to go as when you teach the stuff that we teach.
Yeah.
But you got to keep finding different ways to present the information.
Yeah.
Because I think you got to work a crowd differently. I don't think you do. I don't think you.
Yeah.
I can't treat every class the same way.
Yeah.
So I have to be pretty adept of, just teaching and how I'm kind of interpreting the information, what we're doing.
Speaking of learning as a teacher, what are your current what's exciting you the most right now about what you're learning? Or do you have anything on your plate that you're really trying to digest something new or learn a new skill? Is there anything like that for you right now? And how do you go about doing that at this point? Or is it more like the demands of what you need to do for work already push you there to do that?
Yeah, that. I know that for what I do, you have to keep doing research. People, that's to get to tenure. I mean, we can have this discussion now. I mean,
yeah.
Because it involves in education. So even doing this podcast, that counts for research.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a nature to how to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you have to ask the question to the student, and it's how you ask the question. Like, how am I going to phrase this question? So in order to keep the conversation going, so I just, to hold stuff, I that's why I'm like, okay, I get it. But that just, that was just something else. I just figured I would try out because somebody offered me the opportunity and say, hey, do you want to come back and host the show? I'm like, say, fuck it, yeah, I'll do it.
I can do that.
Yeah, I'm reading the teleprompter, man. You get your vibe together, go over the script, learn a little bit, do some research about who you're talking to, because you can't walk in it cold, because you got to judge. It's like when you're teaching, you got to judge the room. This person might not be all that talkative. What can I do to get this person to actually talk and say something interesting? I figured that was just a good skill to have.
Oh, yeah.
And, I remember but that's what you got to bring that to a class. And I got to read that to the room. I got to read what the person that I'm talking to. How can I get my point across to this person?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you really need in academia because, look, can you imagine how difficult it is to talk about just why would you need to compress something?
Yeah.
But you have to be, and that's probably one of the cornerstones of what we do, is have to master how to manipulate volume, how to make that simple discussion that I guess can look complex because a lot of different variables are involved, but how to make this just digestible to where you get a good understanding and it's commonsensical, because I think that a lot of times we have been told things in a way that wasn't all that ergonomical in a sense.
Yeah.
Like how we were taught was, I'm thinking, I'm going back and look at how I was taught certain things. Oh, wait a second. It's a much more simpler way to discuss this than how it was brought to me. Like, why couldn't you just say this and say that, then, you know what I'm saying? It's there's so many things. And when you start teaching things, you have to realize, like, wait a second.
I got one more kind of closing question for you, and I'm just curious, just what's on your horizon for like either your own projects or kind of what shifts, or where are you going next with what you've been doing and the continuation of all the stuff you do?
I'm currently writing music for Revolt TV, some of their shows, and it's a good avenue of kind of getting in sync and then developing more of a reel that I'd like to shop to like bigger labels just to house a library. So I've been doing that. I've been trying to figure out, okay, I have this library of music from just different things I've done for, over the course of a few years with some other composer stuff. I have some of your stuff in the library that I'm trying to shop around just to kind of see, can I get a better deal and get better placement? So Revolt's been a very good opportunity to start with, and they've been very kind, and they're giving me some shows to write to where they didn't really want library stuff. They wanted me to kind of score it,
Cool.
and it's for a certain kind of vibe, because they didn't want the music to feel like just background wallpaper. So it's a lot of like, you kind of using the beat, and you kind of scoring and breakdown, transition. And so they give you, you can do like, build a name for yourself, like doing that. That's one thing that I'm doing. The other thing is, I really want to get into Ableton more for live performance.
Cool.
Because as a trumpet player, I think that I've been, I usually work in straight ahead, like a jazz context. And, with as much experience I've had doing like just hip hop and jazz and R&B and just different things.
I want to see the Kenyatta Beasley solo set, man.
That
could be a thing.
And I'm really into like developing a set or with a band, and I just want to start to be able to incorporate live visuals with the performance because now I see, man, I'm like, I think if people want to come out and hear you play, I think they're going to want to, like, it would be cool if you can offer just a little bit more.
Yep.
And so it's developing that, spaces that you can actually pull this off, and so I think teaching at a university gives you leverage because you can always say, hey, he's a professor out here, and it's easy to kind of connect and things. And for me, I think that I use academia in that sense to kind of like trying to keep the hustle going, man. Because I don't see like how you get to this point and stop. You should be able to kind of use, because people, oh, professor, oh, okay. Shit, hey, let's get some squeeze some juice for this lemon and see what there different grants that are I just want to be able to like perform and be able to just be seen, in a different context than that. Just to do something that's more creative, or work with visual artists, man, and be able to like trigger installations and we're doing real hip kind of whatever progressive shit, man. Because I mean that's I think that's my next foray into live performance.
Love it. And then where can people find you online or contact you?
You can hit my website. I'm at yattamusic.com. I have merchandise there that you can check out. You can hit me on Instagram at Kenyatta Beasley. There, and I'm in the metaverse.
Yes, sir, you are. Well, thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure, as always, chopping up with you.
Yeah, man.
I think we both always learn so much from talking to each other. So thank you, my man.
It's great, man.
Yeah, and big shout out to the Technica House here in New York City for hosting us for this podcast. So peace.